try and make this video quick today because it's hot in here and I need to be outside working on other things. Anyway, all that to say, I want to do a follow-up on my video that I did the other day talking about the whole conspiracy thing. Man, I got some hate mail or some hate comments down below. A lot of them mad at the fact that I brought up conspiracy theories, but then I mentioned the Bible, and a lot of you think that's a conspiracy. So, I mean, I get it. Listen, if that's not if you don't like that sort of talk, this is not the channel for you. But let me mention something. There is a practice today held by the United States military that is a practice because, not completely because, but partly because of one serious incident that took place back in history. And I'll tell you what that practice is in just a second, but it was a disaster called the disaster at Slapton Sands. Have you ever heard of that? It was a training exercise where 750 U.S. soldiers lost their lives preparing for the landings at Normandy. Okay, they were in training ships and they were trying to do dry runs on this place called Slapton Sands that was sort of similar to the beaches they would be landing at. And so they started running training exercises. And part of that was to get these guys loaded up into training ships, get them in a big, long schedule around the English Channel, just kind of doing loops until they could, because they wanted to be in those ships for as long as it was going to take to get to Normandy, just to train them for that purpose. And so they get there, and then they have some escort ships that were British, some British escort ships to make sure that these training ships stayed safe during their journey. And so they start off very, very, late at night, just like it would be, and they get them in the ships, and they start moving them towards the position of the route they're going to be taking so that they can land at their training area later. And the escort ships are there in tow. And there's one thing they did not do that cost the lives of 750 men. Because out in the distance, there were some German torpedo boats, and they saw them. They made contact, and they were like, oh, we're going to have a heyday. Do you know what they didn't do? Do you know what's the one thing that... Listen, I was in the military. Before you went to the field, before you started an exercise, you always did this one thing. A radio check. A radio check. Because what happened with these training ships, they were all given a different frequency on accident. On accident. Again, we have an issue of incompetence here. They were given the wrong frequency on their orders, and the escort ships were on a completely different frequency. And so when the training exercise happened, all of a sudden they're taking this tracer fire, at some point, late at night. Like, what is that? Well, that must be part of the training. We'll get on the radio. There's nobody answering on the radio, so obviously it's part of the training. The escort ships haven't said anything, so I guess we're just going to keep going with it. Had they had communications from the training ships to the escort ships, they could have avoided a whole lot of casualties. They could have, called up the more escort ships and got these guys turned around and got them back to safety. And they had plenty of time to do it, but they had no communications because they didn't do a radio check. And everyone today in the military, before you begin your exercise, you do a radio check. You want to make sure comms are up. This was not some giant conspiracy where 750 U.S. soldiers died. More soldiers than were lost on Utah Beach. We lost a lot of soldiers, guys who trained, who were geared up and ready for taking on Nazi Germany. And they never even got a chance because they died in a stupid training accident because someone failed to do a radio check. Not a conspiracy. Well, there must have been somebody if that happened today, there's somebody on their side that gave the Germans intelligence and they changed the radios and it's all a conspiracy and they're trying to kill everybody. That's where we're at today. Why? Because you've been programmed to think that way through all your movies and all the media you consume, that everyone's out to get you. I'm doom scrolling the other day and looking at all this insanity out there. And, it's about the time where I reach the topic of the Trump incident somehow being related to Planet X. I'm like, that's it. I'm done for the day. No more internet. There are some weirdos out there talking about some crazy stuff. And I'm like, it's because you've been programmed to think that way. Stop. Usually the most obvious answer is the correct one in life. Usually, let me say this again, usually the most obvious answer is the correct one. And the reason why there was a guy up on a rooftop and no one was paying attention until just the last minute was because incompetence, lack of training. And that counter sniper who waited about a minute, who had the guy in a scope for a minute, he's saying, hey, do I have permission to fire? Do I have permission to fire? No, don't hold fire. Don't do anything crazy. And you know, you wonder why he took his time. He eventually had to disobey orders, supposedly, and pull that trigger. But it's like, have you seen what's happened to police officers and law enforcement in this country when they do things like that? I mean, Derek Chauvin, anyone? It's like your life flashes before your eyes because we have made a mockery of people who do good things. And they're tied up forever, and you know, they may be thrown away into prison forever and just be gone. Their lives completely ruined. I don't blame him for waiting 40 whatever seconds or a minute or whatever it was and trying to get confirmation. You know, it's CYA. Cover your butt. Cover your fourth point of contact before you take the shot. This is not a conspiracy. This is not some giant. This was incompetence. This is a result of our litigious society and people scared to do the right thing. And this is where it's got us. And really what it comes down to, overall, is a breakdown of this country. We're witnessing the breakup. We're witnessing the breakup right now. And it's something, again, that I have said on my channel has been witnessed over and over again throughout history. You have seen this over and over again. There's a level of incompetence that comes down, that settles over the land. And everything looks like a cluster.
She's going to sink, Captain. But she can't sink. She's unsinkable.
And that's just why people are like, Zach, you say get your family and get down in a hole. I'm going to stand and fight. Okay, then you're going to learn the essence of the meaning. A nail that stands up gets hammered. That's what you're going to learn. You're going to learn that. And this is why the Bible says a prudent man foresees evil and hides himself. And the simple pass by and are whacked by the hammer. Proverbs 22, verse 3. Well, I added a little bit in there, but you know what I mean. They get whacked by the hammer. It sounds just kind of like that. Whacked. But you do that. You do that. You do that. Planet X. Good night, people. Don't you understand? This is some kind of alignment would be between Planet X and MK Ultra and good night. We are in big trouble. We're in big trouble. But I want to know what you think. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I keep quoting Napoleon because it's just so obvious. You know, Napoleon was well aware that there were some generals and some people who surrounded him that were complete and total fools. Napoleon didn't get to be Napoleon just by being an idiot and surrounding himself with good people. He surrounded himself with good people, and then there were some idiots around him that did some, incompetent things, and that's why he came up with the phrase, or he made famous the phrase. I think actually people said it before him. There was some Roman senator, I think, who said it kind of like this, but maybe Napoleon was quoting him when he said something along the lines of, don't blame on malice, which can otherwise be explained by incompetence. Okay, it's not someone's evil intent, it's someone's lack of brain matter. But let me know your thoughts. And I know there's people out there who disagree with me. If you want to live in conspiracy la la land, that's fine. We can agree to disagree. I have friends who are flat earthers, and we are friends. But I still think you're crazy. But we can be friends. And I love you. I do. I really love my flat earth friends. Water always finds its level, don't you know? Except when it doesn't. Okay, let me know in your comments below. I love to hear your thoughts. See you next time in the Homestead. Bye! One of the best perks about living off-grid is that I never pay an electric bill. I love being my own power company, but that means when things go wrong, I have to be the one on call. So I try and use reliable components for my power production. For the last couple of years, I have been promoting OUPES solar generators. I've been using them and abusing them, and as it turns out, they are pretty good products. They have power generators for all occasions, and they can be charged by permanent or portable solar panels, as well as AC power. They offer true lithium iron phosphate batteries, and this is important. Recently, a family in my area had a different brand that uses the less stable nickel manganese cobalt or NMC type batteries. The unit caught fire in the middle of the night. It was a scary situation and it caused damage to the home, but thankfully nobody was hurt. The generator, as you can see, was a total loss. This drives home the point on why it's so important to employ solar generators like the OUPES brand that uses the much more safe and stable technology of lithium iron phosphate, otherwise called LiFePO4. They offer small generators for travel or for powering an entire home and everything in between. These are great backups to have in a medical emergency or to power a freezer full of your favorite meat products, or as I have shown in past videos, for even backup AC and DC power sources for ham radio communications. If the grid goes down, you're going to be thankful you have one of these units. You can find the link in the description of this video or click on the banner ad found on the front page of our website at AmericanHomestead.com. Right here, that banner ad right there on AmericanHomestead.com. Hey guys, did you know you can become a patron of an American Homestead? They get access to private videos, and we send them gifts from the homestead that we make here on the homestead. And we also enter our patrons into special giveaways that are only available to them. And before you go, please check out these other great videos. Go ahead, click. I'll wait.